Hi everyone, welcome back to existing viewers, and then welcome to people who are coming across this for the first time. Proud to announce that I'm adding a new property to my portfolio, and I just wanted to take everyone through my thinking process when I did the rate comparisons. I'm going to be talking about the different offers, and then I'm going to be talking about my history with that particular bank, just so to give you sort of a context as to why I may have gotten the rates that I've gotten. Okay, cool. Sorry, it's my morning voice, but what can we do? All right, so this is bank number one. I have like zero history with them. Maybe in a follow-up video, I'm actually going to talk through the development. So this is a new build, so no transfer costs, only the bond initiation cost, which is the 6,037 rand that you're seeing here, which is the same across the banks. So closer to the time, the conveyancers will reach out to me, the lawyers will reach out to me, and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to pay the 6,000 cash?" Or do you want it to be added to your initial loan? So you'll see here the loan amount is 696 250 plus the 6k gets us to the 704, and then I'll say I'll pay it cash or you can add it to the bond amount. It really doesn't matter. It's very little. It's not much. It's not much. So I usually just pay it off separately if I do have the money. If I don't have the money at the time, I'm not going to go and open a loan, because remember, you're not supposed to start new credit while you're in the bond application process. So usually I just add it to the loan if I don't have the cash on hand. Okay. So I've got no history with this bank. They gave me an interest rate of prime plus zero point 0.6, which I think is still generous. I think it's not bad, but I know I can do better. They don't have anything about me. What I found interesting was that they didn't offer me any incentives. They didn't say, "Hey, come bank with us," whereas previously they did. But I think because they can see that my portfolio is quite substantial, they know I'm going to be hesitant to sort of move everything over. So I respect them, not trying that. So the line item here, credit life insurance. So what that basically means is life insurance that they would need me to take out to the value of the bond, so that if something happens to me and I die, a portion of that would be ceded to the bond. So that wasn't necessary. That's where you can see the zero. And then they've got property insurance, which is basically cover for the house. So in case there's a fire, in case there's structural damage, in case the roof caves in case the geyser does its own thing. So that's property insurance. So typically, because the bank also has insurance legs, so that's the quote that would have come together here, or that's where they would have gotten that quote for that amount. So I think that's fine. On the other screen, I think I show it monthly, which is a bit easy to look at, but it's just over 200 rand, which is just decent. If it was a sectional title, you wouldn't see this amount, because that amount would be paid to or through the levies, right? Right, so that's the deal here. Prime plus zero point 0.6. That's the total interest over the term, and then they do the interest plus the initial, the 69 rand monthly fee. So that's the same throughout the banks as per the National Credit Regulator. And then over here, you've got the repayment. So it would be about 7.9 a month. Or I got 240 months, which is basically a 20-year term. Yeah, so it would have been 7.9. Now I'm going to go to the next bank. So here it was quite interesting, right? So I've got a history with this bank. I was main banked for about 2 years, and I think I banked with them for 3 years in total. So when I started working, I banked with the Stellies Bank, and then I think for about a year, and then I moved to this bank because I bought a home, and they had my home loan. So it just made sense for me so that I could get a better understanding and to build a relationship, because it really is about relationships when you're trying to amass assets. So I've got a 3 year, let's call it a 3 year history with them. I've had two home loans with them. One was there for about 2 years, and one was there for like maybe 6 months. So it's quite a rich history. I had my first financed car with them. That was also for about a year or so. So yeah, I have a good history with this bank. So what they offered me was they offered me a standalone offer of prime minus 0.25, right? Which leads to a monthly installment of about 6.3. Let's call it 6.4, and then if you add the initiation fee, it's about 6.4, four and a half, right? That's fine. That's generous. Prime minus 2.25, generous. But then they're like, Tando, we want you back. And I'm like, I'm not a love back girly, because there's so many new people to, come across. Yeah, I like that, I guess. But they're like, come back. I'm like, no. But what I did do is, because they gave me a prime minus 0.75 offer, they also wanted a deposit, which is also quite interesting because the other banks didn't want that. So they're giving me an installment of, under the main bank offer, they gave me an installment of about 6.2, which is good, right? And then their insurance is 495, which is a bit more expensive than the red bank we saw, which leads to about 6.7. The main bank offer looks like this. So service fees, initiation fees, credit life. So they would want me to get credit life. So that's a requirement for them. And then that's the total loan amount. And then there's this amount that you're seeing here, which is the credit cost multiple, which essentially is what or how much, because I'm borrowing 696. How much of that multiplied is actually what I end up paying back in terms of interest, fees, and all of that. Obviously, everyone knows you can pay back a bit earlier. That's not the question, because here we're at initiation phase. So you still have the 240 months looking forward, and it's 258 on the main banked offer, and it's 2.66 on the non-main banked. So you don't actually see the deposit here, but if you look at, where do they put it? Where do they put it? There's a full, yeah. So here, the total loan amount is 626 and not 696. So there's a 69,000 rand, call it 70,000 rand deposit that they wanted of me, which is tricky because you're like, Tando, I want you back, Love back, but at the same time, you're like, show me the money. So I was like, Anyways, I'm happy where I'm banked. But I did use this offer to get my current bank to up their game. You get what I mean? It's like, I need to delete that part of the video. But yeah. All right. Now we're going to go on to the next bank, right? So this bank, I'm basically saying I don't have history with, but I'm lying because I had a card with them when I was a kid. Like, I think 2006, 2007, my mom opened a bank account with me. Then when I went to boarding school, I kept the account. Yeah, I never had much money though. And then when I was working at UCT, I say working loosely. I was working as a dining hall monitor, morning card, morning card, morning card. That was my job. And then I worked at Forest Hill at the lab. I was still banking with them, and then when I got my first job offer at the asset management company, I cancelled or I killed this card and I moved to the Stellenbosch Bank because they were too expensive. They were chopping my money as a student, and I was like, you're not going to get into my salary. So that's sort of my history with them. So the offer that I got wasn't really great because they don't know me as a person. Let's put it like that. They know the old me, the kid me. Right. So here, principal debt 702. It's basically the 696 plus the 6,000. What does that mean? They didn't ask for a deposit. Total cost, inclusive of everything, that includes fees, it includes everything that they want of me, and insurance. So it would have been 2 million, which leads to a credit cost multiple of about 2.8 times. That's crazy, eh? So you can see here the property description. I've obviously killed the ERF number, but it's Tanganani extension. Check it out on Value Links, or is it ValueMax? ValueMax's website. Yeah, they're building. It's just outside of a deep sloot. I'm excited because I missed out on Riverside View. I missed out on the standalone house in Riverside View, and like my mate Anga and I have been watching Tanganani with like close eyes. So as soon as they launched, I've been messaging Opindile like, "Bro, put me on, put me on, put me on." And finally, this went through. I wasn't desperate. I was interested, which is why I was able to do the back and forth with the banks because I wasn't desperate. That's very important. That's key. So the other thing that they wanted is they also wanted credit life. As you can see there, the 51K. Yeah, total interest 1.1, etc., etc. So what I'm going to show you now is I'm obviously going to put this together in a nice spreadsheet and show you that, but I also want to show you what the fourth bank did. That's where I have my most history as an independent adult. Right. So sorry, I've got swimming. Right. So this is where I have my that this is where I've been getting my salary in for the past, I think, 3 years. And they've got the most history with me. This is where my current portfolio sits. This is where my salary goes in. Yeah. So on the left, so this is the left, you've got the initial loan. So I'm using a bond originator because that's how the developer works, right? They told me don't go through your banker. We'll apply to all of the banks. We'll do the paperwork and then we'll take it from there. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's see how that goes. So principal debt 696. They didn't ask for a deposit, and then they've got something called an additional amount. What does that mean? It says this is an additional security amount to cover all interest, fees, charges, and legal costs incurred and damages suffered by the lender in the event of default by the customer. No bond registration costs in relation to this amount will be charged to the customer. What does that mean? It means the bond is going to be registered for a 696 plus the 6 if I decide to add it onto the amount. But if ever things go wrong, this is the maximum amount that they can charge me above the initial loan to say, Tando, pay this back, which is why you're seeing 2.4 capital amount of 836. Do you get me? The other banks don't make this visible. So this gives me some level of comfort that I can see the max that they can charge me. However, what is important to note is the reason that I'm going through piece by piece is because they're not consistent. It's very difficult to show them side by side because this one has something like this that the others don't have. So that's also something maybe the national credit regulator should, be looking at if they aren't already. So that's the capital amount. So they didn't ask for a deposit. So look at this. Imagine prime plus 0.54. I was like, could never be me. So like I said, they've got my salary, they've got my portfolio. I've been main bank for 3 years. I had West Bank with them before earlier this year when I sold my car, and yeah. So I wasn't happy with this prime, but I didn't that as well. I looked at this and I was like, my bank, I can handle this. So the total interest would have been 1.1 million. Total sum of charges would have been that amount, and then my repayment would have been 7.5 plus obviously the 69 rand monthly. Right, 20-year term. All of them were 20 years. Then homeowners insurance. So I was actually speaking to a mate of mine about this. So their homeowners insurance covers only 456 of the 696, right? So if the building burns down, my payout is strictly going to be 456 if I take up their estimated monthly premium. I can talk to F&B. I can talk to the bank in the short-term insurance and ask them to up the coverage to this. This is the minimum coverage that home loan requires of me. I don't know if that makes sense, right? So the premium is about 225. I can get that lower because I have an existing property that is with short term already. So they wouldn't be opening a new premium or a new policy for me. They would just be adding another property to an existing policy. So I'm comfortable that I can get that lower. I chatted to my banker. My banker came back to me and said, I'll chat to them. And then they called me and then they said the property has to be at 80% completion before we can start chatting insurance. And I was like, okay, sharp. I'll keep you updated. And that's that. Credit life wasn't required. So listen here. Unless specifically stated in the special terms or conditions of this quotation, a credit or mortgage protection life policy covering the life of the customer to pay off the total and outstanding obligations to the lender should an insured event occur is not required. If the customer does not hold adequate credit life or other credit life insurance, it is recommended that considerations be given to obtaining sufficient cover that will provide peace of mind should an insured event occur that may jeopardize future life on this account. The reason that this is important and that I'm stressing out on this bank is because I have life cover with this bank. Do you get me? So they have line of sight of all of my products, and my product can cover this easily, right? This one amount. But the thing is, credit life is mortgage protection. So it would be linked to this particular house. Whereas normal life cover is linked to life. It's not linked to the credit aspect. It's not linked to the loan. I've found that life cover is cheaper than credit life. Like if I were to get a quote for credit life, it would be a bit more expensive compared to just life cover. So that's just something to keep in mind. But if it is a requirement of your bank when you get your mortgage, then that's a different conversation. Do you get me? For me, because it's not a requirement, I'm good. If it were to be a requirement, so you saw with the dark blue bank and the green bank that they had required a portion of life cover over there or mortgage protection. What I would have done is I would have rather opened life cover and seeded it to the home loans department because that would have worked out cheaper for me. I don't know. Maybe we can cover that in another video. It's a whole other topic, but we move on. The total amount repayable would have been 1.9, and then the credit cost of credit multiple would have been 2.68. Right? Cool. It's a lot. Then what I did is I took this, right? Because remember, these guys were like, come back to me, Tanda, come back to me. Or they were like, okay, you can just give us the home loan, right? I took this, right? And I told the mortgage originator, hey, take this, show these guys what the other kids are saying, and ask them if they're not serious about me. Should I go somewhere else? Can they treat me better than they're currently doing? Right? So she took this and then she took it to them. And then I said, I can pay the same deposit. I can pay the 10% deposit. You know, I can pay the 10% deposit so that they do like for like. Right? And then I told my banker to do the same thing internally. Right? So the mortgage originator came back to me earlier than my banker did. And then she came back with this loan, which I accepted happily. Why? Because I know I'm a risk. My portfolio is big. I know I'm a risk. It's not me buying my first property. You get what I mean? Like, I'm trying my luck. You get me? So now they come back with a more reasonable offer. Principal date still the same, so they didn't ask for a deposit. Sharp, sure. They can see that I've got the money. They've got access to my everything. So they're not stressed. The capital amount is still 836, which is basically the loan plus the initiation plus the additional amount. They've come back at prime minus 0.45. So I'm like, okay, it's a whole percent down. I'm like, okay, we're talking now. Look at the total interest, how much it has gone down. It's about 115,000. That's significant. Total sum of charges, the charges have also gone down. So that's the initiation and the monthly service. So that's the 69. The initiation doesn't matter. It was the 6,000 both ways, but that 69 rand has gone down significantly, right? Now look at the monthly repayment, because that's actually what matters. The monthly repayment went from 7,508 to 7,035, and that's without the 69 rand. So it's going to be about 7.2. You get me? 7.1 actually. 7,105 is going to be what I'm getting deducted. They've already sent a debit check. They sent a debit check the day after I saw in the morning, 7:30. I'm like, yo, you get me? Term is still 240 months. Homeowners insurance is still the same. This is what I was saying. I can get lower because it would be adding to an existing policy, adding a new property to an existing policy. You get me? Total amount repayable down. How much? About 100,000. That's significant. Cost of credit multiple 2.52. Right now, I know this is a lot to look at, and I love a good spreadsheet. I love a good graph. I don't know it about myself, but now that I do, it is what it is, right? What we're seeing basically here is this bank with the bond initiation fee. They didn't ask a deposit, so I didn't offer. The monthly fee of 69 rand. When the debit order goes off, they add that 69 rand, and everything just goes off together. They gave me prime plus 0.6. This is the bank that I didn't have a history with, so I expected them to treat me like this. Homeowners insurance worked out about 222. like I said, 12 months or 20 years. And then bond would have been 7.8, right? Which is about 7.9 if you add this, right? Homeowners insurance would have been 222. They didn't ask for credit life. I messed up here. It was required. I just don't have the number. I just don't have the number. Let's see. So for credit life, oh no, it wasn't required. Where was I seeing that? Was it this one? 51. Oh yeah, I think I did put that in. Yeah, I did. Okay. Yeah, so they didn't require credit life. They gave me prime minus 0.75. So here I'm doing the main bank offer. This is the main bank offer. So the bond repayment would have been 6.2 plus that would have worked out to about 6.3 monthly. Their homeowners insurance is quite, high, but I think they cover a higher amount. So if you go here, um, they don't actually specify. They just say property insurance 118,000, which I divided by 12. I divided by 12 to get that 400. Here's a 495. So I'm not entirely sure how much they cover. But yeah, like I said, it's very difficult to compare like for like because these guys are not doing like for like. Even you've seen the 4 different offers, they all look completely different. And then here the principal debt was this. Oh no, it was this. It was the full amount. Yeah. So here they wanted the full amount. They didn't ask for deposit. There's the initiation fee. They gave me prime plus 1, which isn't bad, but I can do better. And then their repayment, I can grab that. 7671. Yeah, that would have been 7671. Yeah, so that would have been the monthly repayment, and obviously I would have just added that to get it to 7740. Then this is the initial one, so it would have been 75. Then they came to their senses and gave me 70. This I wanted to chat about, that's why I highlighted it. The deposit amount, the only bank that required the deposit was this love back situation here. The others didn't require it because they had confidence in me and in my payslip rather. Then the pink is the additional amount that I said only my current bank shows on their what's the name. It's the amount that you're liable for, above and beyond your initial loan amount that they show. They don't register the bond to it. It's just FYI. Then credit life insurance, I think I've spoken about. Yeah, that also wasn't required. This though is definitely required across the board for standalone houses. But look at this, the credit cost of credit multiple, which is actually what matters, together with the total amount repayable for this bank and this bank and this bank and this bank. So this is actually my lowest. But the only reason that it's lower than this one, because here I got a better offer, remember, with the prime minus 0.75. The only reason that this is cheaper is because of the insurance being cheaper, because it's interest and insurance, which makes you think insurance counts a lot towards the total. So that's just something to bear in mind. And I'm going to cut the video here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I hope I didn't block any of the stuff on the screen while I was chatting with the video thing. Yeah, I hope everything was visible and I hope I'm audible because I do not have the capacity to reshoot this video. So I'm just going to do a quick recap. This bank, zero history. They didn't even try to get me to come over. They don't care about me, of which it's fine. These guys, I banked with them, I think for, let's call it 2.5, 3 years. So they had some of my portfolios, they had some of my home loans, they had my car at a point in time, and they wanted a deposit and they gave the best interest rate if I move over, and they gave a decent interest rate if I didn't move over. These guys I banked with when I was a kid. I've never had a grown up with them until I was at Forest and I was working at UCT as a student. So they haven't really seen a legitimate pay slip from me. But yeah, the interest rate wasn't good. But it just shows you they're in the same camp. These two are in the same camp, right? So these guys, when they first initially came out, I was like, no ways, treat me better. So I took this really great offer and then they revised it to this. What I didn't do is I didn't come here and say, wipe the deposit, and then I'll come over, because you have to think about the bigger picture. Like, if I have to move X number of properties in order to get a really great rate on one property, it doesn't make sense for me. The paperwork to move my salary, the paperwork to move my debit orders, the paperwork to move my existing home loans. Um, yeah, that's not what we're doing. I'm not saying I will never leave, right? The bank that I'm currently at, but like, I knew that I would have preferred to stay here, stay calm, sort of build my empire from there. I'm rolling my eyes as I said it. I know it's cringe. But I would have rather just stuck with them and moved with them than started afresh. And I made that clear to my banker and to the mortgage originator. And luckily, they, delivered. So I'm going to cut the video here, like I said. And yeah, congratulations to me and Shy.